Good morning from Copenhagen. Hello, everyone.
Buongiorno da Copenaghen.
Thank you for joining us today.
Grazie per essere qui con noi
I'm
oggi.
Renato Pagani from
Sono
Secnugate
Renato
Italy,
Pagani di
an
Secnugate
insight
Italia,
advocacy and communication global agency. With my
di una
colleague Giorgia
società
Rizzi,
di
we manage the
advocacy,
Made in
e
Nature
pubblica
project.
relazioni. Con Giorgia Rizzi gestiamo il progetto Made in
I would
Nature.
like to thank the speaker who accepted our
Vorrei
invitation and all the participants. I would also like to thank Tuan and Christian, our Danish colleagues, for the strategy and the support for this event. Today we talk about organic fruits and vegetables with Elisa Macchi, CSO Italy Managing Director. CSO Italy is one of the most important players in the fruit and vegetable sector, representing about 60% of the total Italian production. Giulia Timoncini, sell account of Brio Alegra, a company participating in the Made in Nature project. Carsten Ahrenfeldt, market manager of Organic Denmark, an association for organic companies, farmers, professional kitchens, and consumers in Denmark. Mike Knowles, managing director of Fruitnet Europe. But before we start, I would like to invite Luca Mari, marketing and project manager of CSO Italy, to tell us something about the Made in Nature project. Please, Luca, the stage is yours.
Well, this is an European project funded by the EU and by the main Italian organics companies. The company has two main goals. One, help the attainment within 2030 of, sorry, disturbance online, and reaching 25% all farmland devoted to organics growing. In addition to the European Green Deal projects, and together with the Farm to Fork strategy, the Made in Nature project aims at actually producing sustainable form of farming and growing, helping the well-being of the European citizens, and also helping support the healthcare spending related to the wrong diet. The project entails special attention to the seasonality of products. We can actually say that currently 2.8 million hectares is currently the farmland devoted to organics, with over 72,000 certified operators. So actually, the organics produced respects biodiversity in the different categories. In other words, we could say that the project does not only aim at fostering the consumption of organics, but it aims at offering the principles of a more respectful style of life, respecting biodiversity. As regards the organics project, well, this is not only a question of a diet, it's an ethical choice protecting the environment and actually becoming full aware of many very up-to-date topics like climate change and environmental pollution. In this sense, we have Brio, Canova, Conserva Italia, Orgel, and other players. These are leaders in the production of organics in Italy and only in Italy. In the 3 years of the activity from February 1, 2022 to the end of January 2025, thanks to a number of actions that are synergic one with the other within the Made in Nature project, from communication, uh, press coverage on the main newspapers and magazines, but also channels on social platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. We are also going to explore channels with the contribution of several influencers to channel the project contents. We will also have a major participation in the most important trade fairs in the four uh, target countries: Italy, Germany, France, and Denmark. And we are also going to go for several initiatives directly aimed at the large distribution and the single stores to make consumers more aware of what we're doing. So I won't get too long. I leave the floor to the many interesting presentations from our guests, and I thank you for your attention. I think it's Mike's turn now.
Thank you very much. Sorry if there's a slight delay. It's we're
Grazie.
waiting for the translation. But Luca,
Scusa, c'è
thank you
un
very
attimo.
much for setting the scene there. We have a number of great speakers to take us through the agenda today, learning about what's going on in the organic market, and in particular looking at this superior example in the form of Denmark. Denmark is a country where the interest and the trust in organic fresh produce is highest, according to a recent European Commission report. And we want to learn why that is and what lessons that can give the rest of the organic business in Europe. So what we're going to do, we're going to first hear from Elisa Macchi, who is the Managing Director of CSO Italy. And she is going to give us an overview of the organic market and give the view from Italy itself. Then we will turn to Giulia Timoncini, who is from Brio Alegra, a major supplier of fresh produce under the organic label out of Italy. She will talk about that company's experience of marketing organics, particularly in Denmark. And then we will turn to Denmark itself, and we're very pleased to welcome Carsten Ahrenfeldt, who is head of market at an organization called Organic Denmark. So very well positioned to explain what is happening in the organic market for fresh produce in Denmark, why there has been so much success in recent years. And then he will give us a separate presentation to talk about consumers themselves in Denmark, and we can perhaps learn a bit more about the psychology and the consumer behavior, which is driving so much good business for organic suppliers in that country. So without further ado, we will turn to Elisa Macchi of CSO Italy, and Elisa is going to give us an introductory presentation. Elisa, over to you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I would immediately start with my presentation. I have prepared this presentation to show some of the main consumption trends in terms of fresh organic produce in Italy and Germany. So if we can share my slides, we can actually start and see some numbers together. So here it is. Here are my slides. Okay. Well, in this first slide, well, I started considering the consumption of organics, fruit and vegetables, or um, general fruit and vegetables in Italy, because we know that this is quite a critical moment as regards fruit and vegetables consumption. In the past 5 years, the sector has lost volume year on year, and from 2018 to 2022, the loss has amounted to less than 13% in the 5 years, a drop which has been particularly important in 2022 when retail purchases have decreased by about 500,000 tons in 1 year, with a total loss, which is the same which we had in the 4 previous years. This happened concomitantly with an average retail price, which has grown a lot compared to the previous year. If we consider 2023, actually things have not changed. For this year, we have figures updated to September. So in the first 9 months of 2023, we have reported an additional drop by 7.5% compared to the same period in the previous year. So as you can see from the chart, this is a critical situation which started back in 2022 and which is actually extending to this very year too. If we can have the next slide on, please. Yes, you can scroll your slides, Elisa. I can't actually. I can't move my slides. Sorry. Is it moving? Can you see the second slide? Yes, we can. Okay, great. So if we get more into the detail of organics consumptions in Italy, we can see that actually nothing changes compared to conventional fruit and vegetables produced. As a matter of fact, we have had a drop by 9% compared to the previous year last year. However, again, it's an average price which has grown by only 3%. However, if we consider what's happened in the in the first 9 months of 2023, here again we can see a confirmation of a conventional fruit and vegetable sector. In these first months, we have consumed 218,000 tons, which is 7% less compared to the previous year. So this drop, which related both conventional and organic fruit and vegetables, made it possible for remain stable in the past 6 years. So organic consumptions currently represent 6% of the total. In Italy, most organics, particularly fruits, organic fruits, even though this amount is tending to drop in the past 5 years, it has dropped from 92 to 88% of the total. So within this macro category, we can actually report the highest drop, while the weight of uh, organic vegetables is increasing. The drop in the past year, as we can see here, related all the most important organics, with a few exceptions. Bananas are growing by 1%, followed by clementines, pears, plums, and nectarines. In all other cases, you see here that consumptions in 2022 dropped. And even considering the larger macro category of vegetables, the highest weight here is accounted for by potatoes. But here we see how all products have reported some drops. And actually, the potato categories was one that actually allowed organic purchases to keep up as regards the vegetable sector. If we consider where Italian consumers buy organic, we can see here that the most favorite purchase of organics, fruit and vegetables are at large distribution points of sale. In 2022, 64% of all volumes actually came from a store belonging either to a hypermarket, supermarket, discount market, or a superette. If we compare this with conventional fruit and vegetables, we, however, understand that the weight of modern consumption for organics is lower compared to conventional products, where in 2022 it got to 76%. Within the larger distribution, we have supermarkets accounting for 42% of the total sales, followed by discounts, 13%. And in 2022, we actually had our peak value, while for traditional stores, actually, they do represent 15%. As regards the splitting of purchases by geographical area, the area where organics are mostly bought, well, that's the northeast of Italy with 33% of national volume, however, dropping back in 2022 compared to the previous year. Then we have the it was the north west compared to the northeast with a drop in purchases by 16%. In the center, in the island, we have a concentration of 8% of all purchases. Sorry, 22% of um, organic fruit and vegetables, and that's the place where in 2022 we had a plus 8% in this segment. We have the south and Sicily accounting for 25% of volumes, however, with a drop here, which in 2022 attained minus 20% compared to the previous year. So, as regards conventional fruit and vegetables already excluded, we can confirm the trends that had allowed growth in organics up to 2021, so packed organic fruit and vegetables. We are also having a drop in bulk products, minus 8%, which is only a fraction of the total loss compared to packed products. Last piece of information regarding Italy, which I believe is quite important, is the distribution of organic fruit and vegetables, how that's distributed depending on the age bracket within a purchasing family. As for general fruit and vegetables, the leadership, so the largest consumers of organics are families with a person in charge of purchasing, which is older than 65. However, throughout 2022, the families with the purchase responsible in this age bracket, together with the age bracket from 45 to 54 years of age, well, they're the ones losing most volume compared to the previous year. What I wanted to stress, however, is the growth in the number of families who's a person in charge of purchasing who is below 34 years of age. In this group of families, organics purchases actually increased by 29% compared to the previous year. In the same way, there is a similar growth in families with a person in charge of purchasing who's in the age bracket between 35 and 44. In my opinion, even though we are experiencing a crisis in all consumption, not only in organics, this is showing a special attention to the organics sector by the younger generation. And it is also quite a major edge compared to conventional fruit and vegetables, where, however, purchases are dropping, particularly in families where the person in charge of purchasing is a young person. As for my last slides, I'll give you an idea of how the organic sector is doing in Germany. We have figures that are less deep, but we've got good indications anyway. So what we notice first is that here, potatoes excluded because we had no data for potatoes here. The organics consumption actually are account for a higher amount compared to Italy. You see, 2022, the organic sector accounted for 8% of the total. Considering the trend in retail for organic products, you see how here we have a great difference, which is grown to 670,000 tons, 53% more within just 4 years, hence with a quite paramount growth. In 2022, Germany also suffered a drop equal to 8% of the total. And in this case, the average retail price has grown by only 1%, hence that has remained substantially quite steady. One more feature that differs from the Italian situation is the prevalent amount of domestic consumption of organics, which is referred to vegetables. They tend to increase from 51% of the total to 56% of the total, while the fruit, the organic fruit sector lags at 44% of the total. So we can conclude that purchases which seemed to drop both in Italy and in Germany in the latest months, possibly this is not connected to the type of consumption, so not the type of product, but this is probably linked to an economic situation, particularly in our country, with a higher inflation and a lower purchasing power for families. We hope this is actually just a moment and the economic situation can change. Because this is actually having effect on the whole fruit and vegetable sector, not only the organics one. I think I'll stop here. Thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, of course, I'll be here available to answer all of them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elisa. And yes, the mention of questions is an important one. For those of you who are watching on LinkedIn and on YouTube, I recommend if you want to ask a question, please put your question in the chat on LinkedIn and YouTube. You can do that on both platforms, and we will try to pick out some of those questions and put them to our speakers. We will now move on, and we will now hear a perspective from one of Europe's largest organic fruit and veg suppliers. That's Brio, which is part of the Alegra group. And we're going to hear from Giulia Timoncini now. Giulia, over to you.
Thank you so much. It's Giulia from Brio speaking. Briefly, we are a producer cooperative and it brings together 443 organic farms in 14 Italian regions. Mainly cultivation area is in Emilia-Romagna and the Veneto, so in the north of Italy. Brio has been exporting organic produce to the Europe market for over 30 years. And Denmark, it's one of the main markets for the group. We export citrus fruit like orange, lemon, and exotics from Sicily to the horticulture from North Italy. We can consider that we work with major Danish chains with the Brio branded and the chain branded products. So we have been present in the Danish market for more than 20 years, more or less, directly and with the agency. We consider that the attention of the Danish consumer towards the organic production is the first point of this big market in a small country. And this is represented for us the advantage. I think this all because I have a little short presentation of my society, and thanks for your attention. And if you have questions, you can ask me.
Okay, thank you very much, Giulia. And I know, Giulia, you have to go because you're very busy selling lots of organic products to lots of people around the world. So, Giulia, whenever you need to go, no problem. So we've had an overview from Elisa. We've had a short intervention there from Giulia. And we're now going to look at Denmark in particular. That's the main focus of our webinar today. And we're very pleased to welcome Carsten Ahrenfeldt, who is head of market at Organic Denmark. Carsten, welcome to you.
Thank you very much, Mike. I'm very pleased to be with you and tell a bit about organics in Denmark.
Okay, so Carsten, you're going to give us two separate presentations. You're going to look at the Danish organic market itself and what's been happening there. Give us a bit of a history, how the organic sales have evolved there in your home country, and then a separate presentation about the consumers themselves and the kind of new demands and behaviors that we can expect to see. Before you start though, Carsten, just give us a quick idea of what Organic Denmark is. I think that would be helpful to people.
Yes, thank you. Organic Denmark is an interest organization or non-governmental organization, if you like. So independent of policy and parties, but working closely with politicians at one hand, but also with the market on the other hand, from farmers over producers to distributors and retailers. We try to cover the entire value chain, and with that bring value forward for the organic consumers.
Fantastic. Well, Carsten, without further ado, we'll let you tell us about what's been happening in the market there for organics, and then we'll come back to you and have some questions.
Right, thanks. So could I have my presentation brought to screen? Here we go. Can I put it into presentation mode? I'm not sure if I can. Okay, let me talk to these slides. Thank you very much for being here. I intended, can I shift? I seem to have the same challenge as Elisa, moving back and forth.
I think, Carsten, you will have to ask to move the slides. So if you just say next slide.
Okay, next slide, please. That trick didn't work, Mike.
Alessio, can you help us there and move the slides on, please? No, delayed reaction. Sorry, Carsten. Just bear with us a moment.
Yes. So how did Elisa manage to move? her presentation forward?
I'm pretty sure Elisa was that they were moving the slides for her. Let's find it. Okay, Carsten, I'm told that you can move the slides yourself. I don't know if you can see a button there to do that.
No. I cannot.
Okay, let's see. I think Alessio is just trying to fix this for you. Okay,
Yeah.
so you should now get the second slide. Okay, yeah. Okay, off you
Okay,
go.
okay. Let's hurry into it. I intended to tell you entire world history, but due to time and technical issues, I'll skip that. Organics go way back. You could claim all the way down to Garden of Eden. Some entrepreneurs throughout the early centuries, and let's jump to the next one, Alessio. Yes, thank you. So now in the decades before the millennium, some entrepreneurial farmers in Denmark started thinking into how can we avoid pesticides, how can we avoid agriculture being polluted by additives that are not healthy. We formed the organization of organic farming back in 91, which is the predecessor to what is now Organic Denmark. The first law on organics came in 87 in Denmark. And the very famous label signalizing organic food in Denmark came then in 1990. It's state controlled, has a lot of recognition, and therefore a high level of trust, high reliability, and it also ensures lots of innovation, leading to the fact that we are today the world leading nation of organics. We have also in 2009 in food service introduced what we call the organic cuisine label, where you, dependent on the degree of organic food you have in your kitchen or restaurant, can have a bronze, silver or gold label to market your restaurant on. Next slide, please. Yes, as mentioned, we are the world-leading organic nation. I'll come back in a second to the fact that we are a bit pressured on that, but as you can see, 13% approx is what we consume of all food that is organic. And it is, as I also mentioned in the introduction, a good cooperation between the government, the lawmakers, all the producers, farmers, and also in retail and food service, which we bring together for a full value chain perspective. Next slide, please. So the status currently, with some pictures or visuals here to illustrate it. Where organics in Denmark was more or less alone in terms of what claiming the good cause, we are now seeing lots of other good causes coming up, efforts on climate, sustainability, animal welfare, etc., which are all good and which are all overlapping with what organics stand for, but it causes some confusion, some clutter out there on the good cause, and we are striving to make that clear to consumers what organics is. We have also seen in Denmark, as most other markets in the world, inflation the last couple of years, which has impacted organic sales. We have seen in Denmark, maybe derived from the inflation, increased focus on promotions and bargain hunting, also impacting organics. We have seen a changing retail scene. Some digital online retailers are coming in. Some of the older, more established and also organic pushing retailers are going out, like Irma. I'll come back to that in a second. And with the changing scene, we have also seen a growth in private labels. And with that, delisting of some of the brands, some of the premium brands. The Øko and the Englemark are examples of strong private labels in the market now. And that means that where we have had decades of stable growth in the organic market in Denmark, we have recently had a couple of roller coaster years due to, as mentioned in the lower right corner, starting with the coronavirus, but also now war in Europe, rising commodity prices, rising energy prices, inflation, labor shortages, etc. And that means, going to the next slide, please, looking into retails, that we've had a bit of a stagnation. The little red dot is illustrating a corona virus coming there in 2020. That at first, as you can see, didn't impact retail so much, but now, maybe due to the other factors mentioned, is putting the growth in retail sales at a pause or stagnation. But looking into at the right-hand side, food service, that was heavily impacted with the closure of all restaurants, kitchen that came with corona. And only now, recently, we are coming back, as you can see in 2022, and also this year, we are seeing a good growth in food service, but certainly impacted a lot in a couple of years. And finally, in terms of export, more or less the same as food service, the corona hit the market heavily. Let's have a look on the next slide, please, on how we split the market of organics in Denmark into various categories. And since we talk fruit and vegetables today, I'm pleased to say that more than 1/3 of organics in Denmark is within the fruit and vegetable market. Also, dairy is a really strong and heavy category, where others are coming up. Let's move to the next slide, where you can see some examples of specific categories and how strong they are in terms of degree of organic sales within that. We have what we call a organic ladder, as you can see to the left, where some of the more obvious categories are where you enter. They're traffic creators, and that's where you start your organic journey. But other categories moving up will come and certainly entail a potential yet to utilize. In the upper left corner, you can see that bananas are having a very high level of organic sales. But if you go to the next slide, it's actually decreasing a bit due to what we in Denmark, and this is just an example on bananas, but with what we call the banana gate. Some 4 years ago, the two biggest retailers agreed to go all organic on bananas, and they made, I know it's in Danish, but they made big campaigns, announcements, PR on that, because it was a good story. However, most recently, the additive chlorpyrifos has been removed from conventional bananas, meaning that they have now re-entered the market. So you can see at the lower right corner on the slide here, that where we were up in the 80s in terms of degree of bananas being organic in the market, we are now unfortunately moving back to 62%, which of course is still a high number, but we believe the bananas to be a good example of going all organic. So to us, it's a bit unfortunate, and it illustrates how vulnerable you can say the market is if we push it strongly with taking conventional out. The market will benefit from that, but equally on the other way around, if you then take that step backwards, we quickly see that conventional grow again. Now let's on the next slide, please. Just have an overview, and I know you don't know them all, or maybe any, the Danish retailers and their degree of organic food sales within each retailer. And that is where you can see that Irma, it's called, a retailer that has now left the market due to financial problems. But that is really a hit to organics in Denmark as such, because they have had a share of their sales of 42 of that being organic. So that means we are suffering a bit from them leaving the market, hoping that other retailers will pick up what they're leaving behind. Let's move to the next one, where I'll show you, as mentioned, how the private label degrees has over the last couple of years both in super hypermarkets and discount, grown. But it also seems now, with the latest figures here from Q3 23, that it seems to have come to a top level and maybe even a little decline. So maybe private labels have reached their optimum now. Next slide, please. Which is just examples of why we have grown organic so much in Denmark, because we have convinced the market and the retailers that organic is not just one offer they have to have in their assortment. They can put more value propositions on organic products. So there is this is just an example of a good, a better, and a best, for example, within carrots. So even free SKUs listed within a given store. That was on products. There's also an example below on packaging, how you can differ yourself even within organics on that, and therefore increase listings and the offer available for consumers. Yes, I think that was a bit rushed, sorry, but that was in a nutshell where we are in Denmark and the market today. We are facing challenges, but we're also seeing good opportunities ahead of us.
Carsten, thank you very much, and we do appreciate you taking us through that so quickly. Denmark is known around the world for several things, many things. They're very good at making small plastic bricks. They're very good at bacon. They're very good at Michelin star restaurants. You mentioned the food service arena there and how important that is to organic produce. Most people regard the world's best restaurant as Noma, which is in Copenhagen. And yet Noma is closing at the end of 2024 for various reasons. But one of the reasons is it's just very, very hard to keep that level of quality and that level of premium going. So let's start with that change in the market and that food service impact from the pandemic, which was almost a delayed reaction. Do you worry about that in terms of the future for organics in your country and other markets?
No, I don't. Not longer term, at least. It is true that we have seen an increased price sensitivity with all the factors influencing the economy in Europe or the world. So yes, there has been a little hesitance about spending, but actually there's also you could call it catch-up effect after Corona, that people actually want to go out and have that experience of eating outside home and doing more of that. And that's why we do see actually food service growing over proportionally these days, which we are happy about.
Okay. Carsten, you mentioned the certification scheme that you brought in more than a decade ago. Yeah. Is that focused on the top of that food service market, or is it more mass market? Is it reaching lots of people in Denmark?
Good question. It's both and. We have 3,500 of those labels in Denmark. And yes, as mentioned before, it's a little country, so it's actually a lot of labels distributed. We want to go further than that. But it's actually from a standard canteen at a workplace or in a kindergarten or hospital to the restaurants, the cafes, up to the premium. You mentioned them yourself, Michelin restaurants.
Mm. And what impact do you think having those certifications, having those labels, what impact does it have? Because obviously in Denmark, lots of people are familiar with the term organics, but then those labels are saying something different, aren't they? They're saying something extra.
Well, the labels say the degree of organics offered in your kitchen or restaurant. So it's just a matter of how organic the restaurant is. And we are, because it's not only a matter of choosing organic or conventional. When you go out eating, you want a great experience. So the task is or challenge is to combine the two, saying you get a very good food experience when you go to these restaurants. And that is indeed a challenge we face. That claiming organics is not enough. You need a good taste experience in the restaurant. Certainly.
Okay. Yeah. Now, more generally, as Organic Denmark, as an organization, what else are you planning to do in the next 5 to 10 years to increase engagement, to make Danish consumers even more passionate about organic fresh fruit and vegetables?
I would say it's a pull as well as a push. So we'll work with consumers, making campaigns towards them, explaining them how organics play well into the other good causes I mentioned, climate causes, sustainability causes, food waste causes, animal welfare, etc. So building knowledge based on that. That is the pull part, so that consumers will ask for more down the value chain. And on the other hand side, yes, push it by talking to farmers about what do we foresee being the right crops for the future. What do we foresee being the trends that they should think into? Talk to manufacturers of food about that. Talk to distributors about that. So it's an equal effort, both in terms of push and in terms of pull.
And just one last question on this: how important is it to have support from the government, from the state? You have their involvement really since the late 80s, it seems. And
yes,
is that an important ingredient in your success?
Yes, I believe so. It's crucial. So more or less all politicians talk about the importance of this. Some of them actually also act accordingly, which we are happy about. But yes, due to the state controlled label of organics in Denmark, we need to continue that. We need to influence them, which we do in terms of future law making. Right now we are trying to influence talks and hopefully later on laws on reduced VAT on organic foods to push it further on into the market. So yes, indeed, very important.
Okay, and that VAT question would be very important to consumers, of course. So Carsten, you're now going to talk to us about Danish consumers and the future for raising consumption of organics in Denmark. So let's go back to your slides. Hopefully they will appear. Alessio, can we have, yeah, thank you. There we go.
Yes, indeed. And let's just start out with the next page, where I just summed it all up, that all Danes buy organic food in a given year, 99.7%. So organics is well into the minds and behaviors of Danes. And on a weekly basis, that is 75% of Danes buying organic food every week, which we are happy about. And looking on the next slide into how it splits into various demographic segments, it's pretty equally split across those segments. We do put effort into families with children because they are the coming consumers and citizens, and they do have extra concern on behalf of their children. So they are very open to our communication, understanding how important organics is. But as you can see, all demographic segments. Next one, please. Where we split it into consumers into segments of how much organic food they consume, and you can see the split there from super organics down to non-organics, so between 0 and 1%, and the chart, pie chart in the upper right corner then shows the actual numbers. So yes, we do have some super organics and heavy organics that consume a lot, but in terms of numbers, they are still the minority. So we do of course have to look into converting light consumers and medium organics into being more heavy and super consuming. Next slide, please. And when we ask consumers, so what is important for your choice of store, and I assume it's quite difficult reading all the arguments on this chart, but as you can see, highlighted with the green bar, pretty long down, that list, 14% say that and strong organic assortment is important. But if you read into the statements above that, there are actually many of those claims that link to organics. So even if it's not called organic, they are also up there in terms of welfare of animals, etc. Good arguments pointing in the direction of organics. And if you, on that question, or that claim that the store has a strong assortment of organic products, then divided into different age groups, you will see that it's the younger ones for whom it's particularly important to have an organic assortment in the stores. On the next one, I just put a collection or gallery of pictures from stores, and to refer to a study we did in terms of what is called nudging. So that is the kind and mild pushing of consumers into understanding what organics is and changing their behavior. So we did a lot of tests in store with posters, shelf wobblers, arguments, recipe suggestions, and just putting it short, it works. So you can influence at point of sale by kindly telling consumers, take organics. It's good for you. It's good for your health. It's good for society. It's good for animals, etc. So depending on what effort we tried out, we had increases on those campaigns between 10 and 20% in the test period. And moving on, also in terms of to your question, Mike, do you influence consumers directly? Yes, we do. Here's an example of direct campaign messages that appear to be quite effective. Talking about pesticides in here strawberries and cucumbers, where we say if you buy organic from Denmark or abroad, there are, and this is not our claim, this is tested by authorities, so the figures are trustworthy by all means, 0% in organic products. But if you take conventional from Denmark, there's more, and if you take conventional from abroad, there's even more pesticides inside. So those kinds of efforts truly work. Next one, please. Still, there are some barriers that we need to work with. So we also, even if we are leading in terms of organics, still have some issues to deal with, and that is about conveying the benefits of choosing organic food to consumers. The nudging campaign showed that we can work on that. We also have the issue that some consumers still think that buying Danish is more important than buying organics, and that, of course, we need to work on. And will do. There also seems to be a situation where non-organic brands are more successful in claiming their efforts on sustainability than organic brands are. Clearly also an issue to work on. Price issue, yes, organic food is in many instances a bit more expensive, so that might be a barrier. Placing in store is an issue. Communication noise can drown the clutter I mentioned, the organic message, and then consumers lack inspiration, and we can of course give them that. And let's then move on to the two last slides. Just to say there is a strong light at the end of the tunnel, even if we are facing barriers, even if the market is stagnating a bit. Here illustrated by the consumer confidence indicator, which after some years of decline now is climbing back up again, and we can see that interest rates are now stagnating, in control. So is inflation. The economy is improving. Employment is fine. Energy prices are back down. So it all points in the right direction of the market and consumers to believe in the organic market in future. So if you take the last one, Alessio. Next slide, please. Yes. So here just on the left-hand side, mentioned some Danish trends on food, all tapping into organics. I'll not go through the entire list, but it also points in the direction that yes, organics has a fruitful future in Denmark. We did a test or survey last year about consumers in the green circle here, who say that in future 45% will buy the same level of organic food as today. 45% said they intend to buy more, 5% intended to buy less, and 5% didn't know. So to me, that looks promising in terms of where the Danish consumers are and their future consumption of organics. End of story.
Thank you, Carsten. And, those statistics you've cited there do suggest that there is positive future outlook for organics, particularly in your country, but perhaps in other countries. We have a couple of minutes just to finish, and we'll just see if we can get deeper into what you've been saying there. The closure of that supermarket chain you mentioned does underline the difficulty that the economics of it presents. So the economic outlook for lots of people has been very difficult. The cost of living has been increasing dramatically with inflation. And of course, a lot of us in the business associate organics with a premium, with a better margin. But of course, that means a higher price in the supermarkets. And so maybe the criticism of organic marketing in the past has been the value proposition to consumers is not clear enough. And I think you've kind of alluded to it there, that sometimes the placement in store is not quite in tune with consumer behavior, or the communications are not telling the consumers about that big long list of attributes, the great things about organics. The message doesn't reach them. But all of that said, you're still confident. You're still confident that despite a little kind of dip in the graph, which we saw, things are moving in the right direction. So I guess what I want to know is, well, what has to happen now? What do suppliers need to do? What do retailers need to do to make sure that things continue in the right direction?
Good question. Yes, first of all, suppliers need to continue bring forward organic food. They need to look into innovating. There's room for innovation also in organic foods. It can be in packaging. It can be in other dimensions. Retailers need to see to it that those delistings that we have seen happening the last couple of years are turned around, put more organic products on the shelves. That will in itself bring more consumption, more shopping of organic foods. And then, of course, at the consumer end, consumers need to understand, and many do, but there's still this clutter, as I mentioned, about, is it working against climate effort? Is it really sustainable? And yes, they need to fully understand, and it's our effort to bring forward communication that ensures that organics play into all the right dimensions of climate, sustainability, animal welfare, and those food trends that I mentioned on the last slide I showed, which are all pointing in the right direction and also in the direction of organic foods.
Carsten, last question. You mentioned so many of those different excellent characteristics that organics have, but is that in a way, is that a weakness for the organic sector, that there is almost too much to tell? There is the sustainability, the biodiversity, the high quality, the vitamin content, we could go on. Over the last 2 decades, organics, you could argue, is a product of food safety fears. People don't want to be eating things where they are concerned about pesticide residues. And of course, lots of retailers have imposed extreme limits on maximum residue levels for pesticides. But it seems like there is an opportunity also to say, well, this is a vitamin-rich product. This is a health product. This is an easy route to moving away from the idea of the pandemic and the threat to life and our health that we have. So is there a need to reposition organics? Is there a need to say it's a different story now?
Very good question. Yes, we need always to be contemporary, and to the degree that organics to some appear to be a bit dusted or old-fashioned, that of course is an issue to address for sure. Secondly, you're right, we have so many good stories that can in itself become a challenge. You can see my attempt to bring forward myriads of slides in a few minutes because I have so many good things to tell is maybe a good example. So we need to focus, and maybe we need to take one message at a time, or in one campaign at a time. So at one point of time we talk about clean water, and then next time animal welfare, moving on like that.
Well, Carsten, that's a good suggestion. And Carsten, you did very well to bring all of that together in such a short space of time. We thank you for that. And that concludes our Made in Nature webinar. Thank you very much to CSO Italy. Thank you to Luca Mari, who is still there, and the Made in Nature campaign for hosting this session. Thanks also to our speakers. Thank you, Carsten. Thanks to Giulia, who had to leave. And Elisa, thank you to you for setting the scene. And to all of you who attended, and to all of those who watch on Catch Up, we wish you every success in bringing all of these fantastic organic fruit and vegetables to more and more consumers in the international market. So from me and from all of us, thank you for watching and have a great day.